J'ouvre la...
I call this meeting to order. Welcome to meeting number 36 of the Standing Committee on Veterans Affairs.
Pursuant to Standing Order 1082 and the motion adopted on Monday, October 3rd, 2022, the committee resumed its study on the National Strategy for Veterans Employment After Service. La réunion...
Today's meeting will be taking place in a hybrid form. And in order to ensure a smooth meeting, I just have a few directions to give you. Please wait until your name before speaking. If you're on Zoom, click on the microphone icon in order to have the floor. And in terms of interpretation, for those who are on Zoom, you have the choice at the bottom of your screen. And I believe the clerk has already told our witnesses how to proceed in order to be able to change back and forth between languages. I'd just like to remind everyone that all comments have to be addressed through the chair. And I just want to tell you that pursuant to our routine motion, the connection tests have been undertaken. And we hope that all will go well throughout this meeting. Now, allow me to welcome our witnesses. We have with us
Industries Association of Canada, Mr. Mike Mueller, President and Chief Executive Officer by video conference. And from helmets to hard hats, Paul Burry, Director, Transition Services, and Normand Trépanier, Deputy Director. Mr. Mueller, you're going to have the floor for 5 minutes, but please look at me because I'm going to tell you when you have 1 minute left and when your time is over, but please respect that. And after that, we're going to have a series of questions from members of the committee. So, Mr. Mueller, the floor is yours for 5 minutes or less. Please open your mic. Go ahead.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll keep an eye out for the cue cards. I apologize to the committee that I couldn't be there in person, but again, good evening, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here on behalf of the Aerospace Industries Association of Canada.
Point d'ordre, Monsieur le Président.
point of order, Chair.
Pardonnez-moi, l'interprète.
The interpreter has pointed out there seems to be background noise and that the sound quality does not allow for interpretation.
Excuse me, Mr. Mueller, we have to check with the sound because the interpretation, we have problem with that. So, what we're going to do, we're going to start with the witnesses in the room, and after that, we'll go back to you. Et ça me fait penser.
And actually, I would like to welcome our two colleagues, Ms. Christina Michaud, as well as Mr. Francis Drouin with us today.
Donc, sur ce,
on that, we will now proceed to the next witness.
Paul Burry or Monsieur Normand Trépanier, who's going to take the floor. So, Mr. Burry, you have the floor for 5 minutes or less. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. As introduced, I'm Paul Burry, Director with Helmets to Hard Hats Canada, and I'm joined this evening by my co-worker, Mr. Normand Trépanier. I'd like to thank you and the members of this committee for the opportunity to talk with you this evening about the Helmets to Hard Hats program and the benefits which it offers Canadian Armed Forces veterans, serving reservists, military spouses, dependents, and members of the Canadian cadet organizations aged 16 to 19, and now resettled Afghan interpreters who worked with Canadian Armed Forces when it was deployed to Afghanistan. Helmets to Hard Hats is a national nonprofit organization funded by the unionized construction industry and staffed by both military veterans and industry representatives. Helmets to Hard Hats also receives periodic federal or provincial government funding for specific veteran employment initiatives. Specifically, Helmets to Hard Hats has received funding through the Veterans and Family Wellbeing Fund, which has allowed us to expand our presence in Atlantic Canada and create a specific initiative for women and LGBTQ2+ veterans. And we are extremely grateful for this funding and look forward to further opportunities through Veterans Affairs Canada. Affiliated with the 14 Canadian building trades unions representing over 60 occupations, H2H focuses on assisting armed forces veterans, serving reservists and our other select clients in finding rewarding civilian career opportunities in the building and construction industries across Canada. Networked across the country, H2H has deep connections with construction trade union locals and their affiliated contractors. H2H connects registered participants with apprenticeship and employment opportunities in Canada's construction industries. And the apprenticeship programs provide the skills training needed to achieve journeyman and Red Seal qualifications across various occupations. H2H provides professional and personalized services to registered participants by guiding registered members as they transition to a new career and by assisting employers in their search for potential employees. Since its inception in 2012, Helmets to Hard Hats has referred over 2,300 service members into well-paying second careers in the skilled trades. We are in receipt of many testimonials that testify to a significant and positive effect on those veterans, their families, and the community. H2H is uniquely positioned within Canada to help in the transition of Canadian Armed Forces veterans and serving reservists to these careers in the skilled trades. We work closely with transitioning personnel to help reduce the stress of their transition by offering job information and apprenticeship placement referrals and employment contacts across Canada. Additionally, we work closely with local unions to ensure that women, Indigenous, and racialized veterans are prioritized as part of this group and receive the benefits and services which H2H offers. Canadian construction industry has an aging workforce, and in the coming decade will lose a significant percentage of its skilled workers to retirement. To fill the vacancies left by the retiring baby boomers and meet the demands of the anticipated growth, the industry needs to recruit and train new workers. Canada's veterans and serving reservists are seen as highly skilled and desirable for occupations in the trades. H2H is able to open venues to employment for Canada's veterans, offer solutions to Canadian contractors and construction employers by helping to fill the vacancies in the trades. Mr. Chair, I'd like to hand the floor to my colleague, Mr. Trepanier, for a couple of minutes for his comments. Thank you.
Merci, Paul. Monsieur le
Thank you, Paul and Chair. I don't want to repeat what has already been said, but I would like to thank you for having us here and allowing us to talk about our organization, Helmets to Hard Hats. Many people do not realize that when they decide to join the Canadian Armed Forces that they are putting their civilian lives on hold. Their time and lives are dedicated to protecting their country and the people who live there. There's this urban legend that says that all military personnel leave the Canadian Armed Forces with a pension for life, which is not exactly true. To be eligible to receive a pension, members must have put in at least 25 years of loyal and dedicated service. However, if an injury occurs, and that injury is attributable to military service, a pension for life may be awarded for medical reasons. A veteran who serves for less than 25 years is not eligible to receive a pension. However, when they are discharged from the Canadian Armed Forces, veterans will be given their contribution to the Canada Pension Plan less uncollected taxes. After serving for 5, 10, or 20 years, all of a sudden they are the ones responsible for making decisions about their new life. Now, it may seem like a minor thing for those who leave a great career, but the fact remains that starting over can be very stressful and for some, even nightmarish. Helmets to Hard Hats was created to prevent our veterans from going through this stress. A veteran who decides to start a second career in the construction industry can count on the expertise and experience of the people at H2H. Twice a year, in the spring and fall, we are invited to the Second Career Seminar to talk about the program and to tell seminar participants about the services we offer. We invite them to register for Helmets to Hard Hats. Mr. Trepanier, I'm sorry, the time does go by very quickly, and I apologize. You will have to continue through your answers to the questions from the members, and you will be able at that time to refer to your speaking notes.
Now let's go back to Mr. Mueller. We're going to do a quick sound test, and so I'd like you to say a few words in order to make sure that the sound is good now. Please.
Well, I apologize for that, Mr. Chair. I hope the sound is coming through decently now. I'm not sure what was going on. There was a fan in the background. That might have been it.
That's okay. So I put the clock on. You have 5 minutes. So please go ahead, Mr. Mueller. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, I apologize for not being able to be there in person. It's so good to see people in person again. But it's my real pleasure to be here on behalf of the Aerospace Industries Association of Canada. And I really appreciate your time and the committee's interest in this important topic. As you may know, our industry employs a significant amount of veterans from the Canadian Armed Forces, and it makes me personally especially proud as I visit member companies to see the number of veterans employed in the industry. So any actions you can take to help support this is greatly appreciated. By way of background, our members represent over 90% of aerospace activity in Canada, spanning the civil, defense, and space sectors. In 2021, Canada's aerospace industry contributed over $24 billion in GDP and close to 200,000 jobs to the Canadian economy. And these are highly skilled, well-paying jobs in every region of the country. The industry is an important sector in regions across Canada, driving innovation, creating jobs, and promoting economic growth. However, we're facing a significant challenge getting the right talent to meet the demands of a rapidly evolving market and rapidly changing technological advancements. Our industry relies heavily on skilled labor, from engineers and technicians to machinists and assemblers. And there's a growing gap between the number of jobs available and the number of qualified workers to fill them. I'm sure you're hearing this from a lot of industries. And this is due to a combination of factors, including the retirement of experienced workers, the increasing demand for skilled labor across the board, and the need for further workforce development and training programs. On the training side, we had some good news recently. As part of our recent Canadian Aerospace Summit, the government announced an investment of $39 million under the Sectoral Workforce Solutions Program to the Canadian Council for Aviation and Aerospace, who specialize in such training. Over 900 new and current aerospace workers across Canada will benefit, and we're pleased to be working closely with them on this important initiative. So we're very appreciative of that investment, because meeting both the sustainability imperative and simultaneously Industry 4.0 requirements, there requires new skills and training. In its 2021 study of Canada's aerospace industry, the House of Commons Standing Committee on Industry and Technology called out the need for the federal government to collaborate with provinces and territories to fund post-secondary training across all aerospace sectors. The industry is competing with other countries to attract the best talent, and we need to ensure employers can attract the workers they need. Getting talent back or finding new sources is both an opportunity and a challenge for the industry. Estimates are that we require an additional 58,000 workers in key skilled roles by 2028. So we have a real opportunity now to get things right moving forward. And I'm very pleased to see that this committee is prioritizing a study about the national strategy for veterans employment after service. Utilizing the talent we have, talent that is ready to be put to work, is critically important. We would welcome the skills, knowledge, and experience of more veterans in our industry. It's a natural fit. Many of our member companies employ veterans, as I said at the outset, and at our national association, we are fortunate to have two extremely accomplished military veterans among our ranks, both former brigadier generals. They are now providing invaluable expertise to our members through their work with our association and the leadership they are providing on our technical committees. The breadth of knowledge that veterans provide is something that only comes from the unique experiences they bring. So in conclusion, the challenges in the labor market in the aerospace industry are significant, but they are not insurmountable. Ensuring we're utilizing the talent and experience of our veterans is something we fully support, because I think we all share the goal of ensuring this important industry continues to thrive and provide exciting, well-paying careers for generations to come, while benefiting from the experience, talent, and knowledge of our country's veterans. Again, I just thank you for your interest and would be happy to answer any questions that there may be.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mike Mueller, for your remarks. And now let's go to the round of questions. And I invite Mr. Fraser Tolmie for 6 minutes or less.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Mueller, for your presentation, Mr. Burry and Mr. Trepanier. Thank you for joining us today. It's this aim of this committee to be able to ensure that veterans who have served our nation and who have put their lives on their line and are looking for a second career are able to find meaningful work. And I believe that your presentations have represented that. And I think one of the things that we are trying to understand as a committee before we go forward on a strategy is to understand where that logjam is. There seems to be, Mr. Burry, you were talking about, that there's an availability to employ people after vets after they've been serving, and obviously there's a need because there is a need in the building industry, if I'm not mistaken. So could you tell me where the challenge you see getting veterans employed? Is it a skills issue? Is it an awareness issue? Is it just an availability issue?
That's a great question, and be happy to comment on that. So I think the answer to all the points that you addressed in your question were, skills, awareness. The answer is yes. There are issues in that. So while it is recognized that a lot of veterans come with significant leadership maturity and the ability to get the job done, they may not have the specific skill required for the civilian job that they're going to do. And I'll use the example of, if you have an individual who's an electrician on a Navy ship and is qualification level 5, QL5 qualified, they can test or for the Red Seal. But that qualification, that experience, does not equate to a residential electrician experience. So there will be a skills gap there.
Okay, so just for clarity, so Red Seal is a journeyman electrician that has written their exam, and like a plumber, and
that's right.
So, yeah. So the challenge, and I just want that being put in the record for other people to know. I'm aware of that, but I think that's got to be cleared. If we use acronyms, not everybody understands the acronyms. So the challenge is they don't have that skill, but that's where. So if someone applies to you and says, I want a job, but they don't have that skill, are they rejected?
No. In fact, the Canadian Building Trades Unions, the employers, the contractors will really work with the individual to ensure that they become employable, that they get that experiential piece, and that they understand what the gap is, and they can make it up.
Okay, so and that's, if you can follow my line of questioning here, is that someone applies for work, what's the rejection level for them not to be able to be employed with you? Is it because of, you're talking about the skills that are not transferable? That's what we need to focus on. We need to focus on skills that are not transferable, that are not recognized. Pilot flies a cargo airplane in the military or a fighter jet, then they can transfer their skills through training, through Air Canada, WestJet, Sunwing, whoever. They're able to do that. The challenge we have is some of these vets don't have that transferable skill, and so I want to hear what your thoughts are on that.
So, Mr. Chair, I would say that the business leaders, the unions will seek out veterans for the soft skills, the leadership, the discipline that they bring. The trade-specific skills can be taught, they can get that experience and move forward. And what we find is the testimonies we get back, the the information we get back from the employers is that they seek out these individuals because of those skills. They can teach specific skills, trade-specific skills, but they want the veterans for all the other assets they bring to the worksite.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Mr. Mueller, is that something similar that you see from your perspective, the airframe techs, safety systems? There's a lot of expertise that comes out of the skill sets of those that have served as ground crew maintenance engineers even. Is there a challenge for people to get into the aviation industry that have skills but that are not recognized?
Yes, thanks for the question and your comments with respect to all the different challenges. I think make a lot of sense. You have some of the upskilling requirements that is required. I would agree with the previous individual. Sorry, I forget your name. Talking about the soft skills. Absolutely, the soft skills that veterans have coming out of the military, absolutely top notch. Those hard skills are absolutely top notch also, but sometimes there is that need for some upskilling requirements that are there. And we heard that across the country also. Just generally with respect to company-specific skills that are required. And that's why we're especially pleased to see the investment that the government is making in industry-led training, because that's absolutely clearly needed amongst industry. The other piece I would also...
Thank you, Mr. Mueller.
Yep.
I'm sorry, so we'll come back.
And Daryl, I would now give the next 6 minutes to Mr. Daryl Sanson.
Being here today, and I must say that in listening to your presentation, I'm quite impressed. And when we look at the aerospace indicating that you have a significant number of veterans is quite impressive, and I thank you for that. And the work you do, I mean, it's that transition which is so crucial, and we know it's necessary. And you talked a little bit, I know my colleague asked questions around recognition of qualifications, but is both your organization aware that there's an education training program out there for veterans that can be used to support the veterans upskilling or upgrading? Monsieur,
yes, we do. We understand. We know.
Est-ce qu'ils utilisent ce programme?
Is that program being used? Are they taking any courses through this Education and Training Fund? Yes, they're not all using it, but yes, it is well used, and we encourage them to access that fund when they require it. And when they meet the criteria, for example, 6 years minimum.
Questions around, are the veterans you're hiring that may not have all the skills when they arrive using, as far as you know, the training and the education and training program? There's funding available for them?
I assume that's a question to me. Sorry,
Yes.
cut out a little bit there. Yes. I am aware of the program that is available. I don't have any updated, information as to if those folks coming into the aerospace industry specifically are taking advantage of that. But just going back to the previous question, that's where that awareness piece, I think, is absolutely critical on building the awareness of what's available, both from a veteran perspective, but also from a potential employer perspective. How can we take advantage of some of these tools that are out there, or guide veterans into some of the tools that are there?
OK, and deuxième question pour les deux, c'est la question.
And second question for you, both of you. It deals with recruitment. Are there any recruitment strategies that you have in place? And what are the best practices in order to be able to better recruit veterans? Well, if I had finished my notes, I would have been able to answer that question. But what I would say is this. As I said, We visit the military bases and we make sure that they are familiar with the programs like Helmet to Hard Hats. And then everyone has an opportunity to sign up. It's free. And so we explain the program and we tell them how we can help them in their new careers. Thank you very much. And Mr. Mueller, the time is going by quite quickly.
No, thank you for the question. Recruitment is top of mind for our industry, and we work closely with colleges, universities, of course, and then veterans organizations. And the other piece that we've really tried to have discussions with is the Air Cadets. There's a great group of young adults that are going through Air Cadets right now that are potentially going to go into the military, and making sure that they understand both the benefits of the aerospace industry to them and the potential jobs that are available to them either when they come out of the Air Cadets or when they come out of their term with the military. So again, greater awareness. How do we make sure that everyone knows of the opportunities we have in the industry? And I think we have work to do on that, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. I do want to mention to our colleagues, Mr. Burey and Trépanier, that it's impressive that you are also helping or hiring those to resettle Afghan interpreters. Tell me a little bit about that. That seems complicated, but I'm impressed that you have it on. And I do want to thank you before you answer, I guess, and I know my colleague from the NDP will hit on that, but the women, LGBTQ, and marginalized Canadians that you're hiring in that group, that's quite impressive as well. So maybe if you can just touch on the resettle Afghan interpreters.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. So this was an initiative. This is an initiative which we undertook about 12 months ago, and it slowly took form. We work with other community-based organizations who help the resettled Afghan interpreters, and working with the Canadian Building Trades Unions over the last, I would say, 6 to 8 weeks. We have been quite successful in not only recruiting, making them aware, recruiting them to the organization, and just over the last few weeks we've been successful with the United Brotherhood of Carpenters in the Toronto area, placing quite a number of them. So that is a successful initiative, and it's thanks to VAC funding that happens. Thank you.
Yeah, and I really also appreciate the work the expansion that you're bringing to Atlantic Canada. I think it's really important. The needs are quite wide right across the country, but also in Atlantic Canada, people might be surprised. There's lots of needs for employment, or I should say for workers, and thank you for the work you're doing on that end. Appreciate it.
Merci, Monsieur Sanson. Maintenant, nous allons...
Thank you, Mr. Sanson. And Ms. Christina Michaud now has the floor for the next 6 minutes. Go ahead. Thank you very much, Chair. And I'm very pleased to be here this evening. We had to do some replacements here and there, but this is my first time on this committee, so I'm sure I have a considerable amount to learn. I'd like to thank the witnesses for coming this evening. Mr. Trépanier, you didn't have time to wrap up your opening remarks, and I did highlight some points in it that I thought were particularly interesting. For example, that you're hopeful that there will be priorities set for veterans in the private sector because they do have priority employment in the public service. So perhaps you could just expand on that point that you wanted to raise. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. In the public service, if a member of the military has the same number of qualifications, then they have an equal opportunity there, but not in the private sector. So what we would like to see is this. We'd like our veterans to be represented as they would like them to have the status of an underrepresented group, just like women, Indigenous people, and visible minorities are, so that they get veterans employment priority outside the public service. Thank you very much. And was there anything else you wanted to be able to add that you maybe didn't have an opportunity to say during your opening statement? I see you looking at your notes, and I'm looking at your notes. I mean, there are many interesting points that were raised. Well, Chair, what I would add is this. I'd like to thank Veterans Affairs for having provided us with what we needed to be able to ensure that there is safety training. So all those courses are provided in Ontario, and we're sort of using that as a test group. We've been doing it for about a year now, and I can tell you it is a success across the board. What we'd like to do now is make it a national program, but we do need the funding for that. And the funding would have to come from Employment and Skill Development Canada, because we do need that in order to be able to offer it. So I hope that we do get that funding. And when we do, we will be able to do the same thing across the country. Now, I'd also like to talk about access. There are members who are going through this transition, but they feel somewhat rejected, and they're waiting for that training, and we want them to be able to access that training and immediately enter the workforce. We don't want them to have to wait 1 or 2 or 3 months to be able to work in a trade that they have the skill for. Thank you very much. Now, you said you've been waiting for an answer. You could always ask the question to Luc Desilets and see if he could maybe ask for answers to the question about waiting for the funding. Now, we were provided with notes about the programs that exist within Veterans Affairs. Mr. Sanson mentioned one of them. Do you think the programs that do exist, that are in place, are useful? Do they have a positive impact on the veterans you are in touch with? And are there any other needs that you may have identified that perhaps the government could be investing in or creating programs for? Well, there is the Wellbeing Fund that exists, and it's ideal, I have to say. I don't want to overstate it, but it was created in 2014. We wanted to have a fund that would be similar to the one that existed in the States. We now have it. We use it. And we encourage our veterans to access it if they meet the criteria. So we do use it, and we encourage our members to access it and to start a second career and to acquire the skills they need. So yes, absolutely. Thank you very much. Mr. Mueller, I have a question for you. Unfortunately, the aerospace sector suffered during the pandemic. And I'd like to know what you feel the impact was, how it's going. Do you think it has bounced back? Do you think there is a shortage within the workforce? Do you see it in the way that it exists in other areas? And what would you say about the value-added aspect to the personnel in the aerospace industry?
For the question, we saw some significant challenges through COVID-19. And again, I don't think it's any surprise to anyone on this committee that aerospace took a disproportionate hit from the impacts of COVID-19. So I think the latest numbers are we saw about 35,000 jobs being lost in the sector. And these are high quality, high skilled, good paying jobs. With respect, I think it's 30% higher than the average manufacturing. So quite good jobs. So very concerned about that. We do see a bounce back. It's coming sooner in the maintenance, repair, and overhaul, and the manufacturing also, which is a good sign. But for the long-term viability, we need to find the people. We need to make sure that we have a good pipeline of talent coming into the industry. And that's where I think veterans are very well placed for this piece. And I should say that, we as an industry are committed to working with the government, committed to working with this committee to make sure that we are securing employment for veterans. And we see this happening on an organic basis already, but there's some challenges there. We talked about the awareness piece. We talked about the colleges and the upskilling pieces, and very pleased to see the committee take a look at the need for a strategy. One of the other things we've been calling for is a broader... Oh.
No, well, Mr. Mueller, I'm so sorry. The time is really up with 6:39. So I'm sorry, but you will have the possibility to answer other questions. And now, even though Mr. Sanson took one of your questions, but Miss... Okay, right. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sanson. Miss Blaney, you still have 6 minutes to ask questions. Please, go ahead.
Well, thank you so much, Chair, and I thank all the witnesses for being here. I deeply appreciate the information you've shared with us so far. So I'm going to come to helmets and hard hats, and I will leave you two to decide who answers because you know what you do the best. But one of the things that you mentioned in your introduction to us today is about having creating a specific initiative for women and LGBTQ2 plus veterans. And I'm just wondering if you could expand on what that looks like a little bit so that we can better understand what framework that you're moving forward with.
Certainly. Thanks for the question. So we applied for a grant through Veteran Affairs Canada and the Veteran and Family Wellbeing Fund, and specifically for women to promote skilled trades opportunities to women and LGBTQ2 plus veterans. We have, through that grant, we were able to hire 2 outreach workers. And their focus is to go out and talk to women vets, LGBTQ vets, and communicate, familiarize, and inform them about the opportunities in the skilled trades. So we have seen, because of that work, we have seen an uptick in the number of those individuals, those veterans who have registered with us, and we look forward to their work furthering that initiative and that cause. And I think over time we'll see that it has been successful.
Well, thank you. That answers a little bit another question that I have, which is just around if you have particular strategies to outreach to those communities. And so it sounds like you have people that are actually going out. Is that different than the attraction strategy for just veterans generally? Is it a little more specific?
Yeah, so I would say it is. We have a general outreach strategy. Mr. Trepanier noted that we attend the Second Career Assistance Network, the SCAN seminars. We meet with regular and reserve forces across the country. We communicate and inform them about the opportunities, about the Helmets to Hard Hats program. But the 2 outreach workers, which the VAC grant allowed us to hire, really dig down into the demographics and help mentor. They help them, they mentor them, and they really work with them closely as they go through the process of applying for union membership and apprenticeship opportunities. And I think that really helps. It's about making that connection and then helping through the process to ensure that there's a successful a successful outcome to that.
Well, thank you for that. And it's interesting because a lot of the research says that there's a few different groups of veterans that are really challenged in terms of finding employment after service. And one of those groups, of course, is women veterans, veterans who served for a very short time and now are out in civilian life. And then the other one is medically released veterans. So one of the things that I'm hoping will come out of this study is more ideas about specific ways to do that outreach, so that those numbers aren't continuing to fall behind other groups of veterans and really have an opportunity. So I guess one of the other questions I have around this is just if you have specific targets that you are setting to meet in terms of the numbers of folks from those communities participating in the program.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think, when you're talking about specific targets, we did have some metrics, obviously, when we applied for the funding, but I think it's too early in the process to really be able to tell you where we are, whether we're achieving success. I would say that because over the last few months we've seen an uptick in the number who have applied. We have had far more communications this year with women and LGBTQ2 plus veterans than we have in the past few years. It is. I would attribute it to the work that those two outreach workers do, but. If you come back in 2 years and ask me, I can give you a far more fulsome answer.
I look forward to that. Another thing I noticed in your intervention with us, and I don't know, I know you didn't get to everything, but one of the things that really impacted me was talking about once the receipt of documents is done, there's that sort of really good reaching out to the veteran, making a phone call, talking to them about the process, looking at what's happening for them personally. I'm just wondering if that's something you do with every single veteran, and if you feel that that is part of the capacity to retain them in this industry.
Monsieur Paris, in a minute. Ma'am, yes, definitely. We speak with everybody that registered with us. The reason being I'm an old-fashioned guy, so I like to speak to people, all right? And after that, we can leave, say, okay, we're on the same net, we're on the same track, so we go, and from there, the work starting. So we send a file all over the place where the member, the veteran, wants to go. But, Mr. President, if I'd like to correct something. At the beginning, I said that the safety training fund was come from the Veterans Affairs. Sorry, it comes from the province of Ontario on the SDF program. My apology for that. And okay, yeah, like I said, we speak to everyone. We just want to make sure that we are on the same track. And the challenge that we have sometime with the Afghan, all right, but we're just starting. That's the language, all right. Even though I'm coming from near Shawinigan and I probably got the accent from Monsieur Chrétien, we're having fun with them, and they work around, and because we're speaking with them directly, they can express themselves better.
Merci, monsieur.
Thank you very much, Mr. Trépanier, and thank you, Ms. Blaney. There will be another round of questions. And then we will wrap up because we'll have another panel with us.
Enthal for 5 minutes. 5 minutes, please.
Thank you so much, Chair. Okay, first of all, I just want to make a comment on your statement here that you didn't get a chance, I think, to actually say. We know that the Canadian government gives employment priority in its public service to equally qualified veterans. We've received information as a committee that as of September 1, 2021, there were 171 BAC employees who have self-identified as being current or former Canadian Armed Forces members. So out of 3,455 full-time equivalents at VAC, that's about 5%, we'll say. And then according to the Public Service Commission, which is responsible for administering hiring priorities, 330 appointments out of the 64,796 hires made in 2021-22 for the entire public service were veterans. That's about 0.5%. So in your thinking, is that a good representation or underrepresentation within the public service itself of the hiring of veterans?
Mr. President, I don't have those figures, so I don't know. All right, I can't say, and I don't want to lie, so I don't know. I can't find maybe the answer, but right now, madam, I can't. Okay, sorry.
That's fine. I think it's important that we realize that VAC and the public service needs to be setting an example, but at the same time, I really appreciate the opportunities here in the private sector, and I think you're doing a remarkable job. of this. Could you explain to me, twice a year in the spring and the fall, you indicated we're invited to the Second Career Seminar to talk about your program, which is wonderful. Where does that invitation come from?
They come from Canadian Force Bases and Garrison. So this from the transition group and from the base personnel service officer, and they invite the third party to speak about whatever the program they have,
Okay,
and
so
we inform the veteran that we are a tool on their toolbox.
Right, I appreciate that. So you're invited and you're part of that fair. Can you tell me just roughly how many different organizations would be part of that career seminar? Like, is it just yourselves? There's other options there as well, or is it just something specifically to?
Mr. President, they have a lot more representative, not only H2H. There's group all over the place.
Very much. Mr. Mueller, I'd like to just ask you a quick question around your comment that you said you received $39 million to help with reinvesting in our aviation and aerospace industries. You talked about needing to get talent back plus new employees. So is the talent back in reference to what the industries have been going through since the shutdowns with COVID and whatnot? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, thanks for the question. That's what I was referring to is how do we get back the talent that we lost through the devastation of COVID-19. We were pleased with the $39 million that you had referenced, and that is going towards industry-led training. So again, that skills mismatch, if you will, from previous experience that somebody may have, or somebody coming out of university, and what are the specific skills required from that particular company or industry sector that is required. So
sure. Does
very
this
pleased
include,
to see that.
Sorry, does this include pilot training as well?
I'm not 100% sure. I don't believe pilot training. No, it's more on the manufacturing side.
Manufacturing, maintenance.
Correct. Yes.
Overhaul, that type of thing. Okay, we are short.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, just to be clear, this funding went not to AIC, but to an organization, the Canadian Council for Aviation and Aerospace, and I think they'd be probably better placed to answer some of those very specific questions on the program. I don't want to mislead the committee either.
Sure, no, I appreciate that, thank you. So you also indicated we need 58,000 more employees by 2028? Is that accurate?
Correct, yes. That is the estimates that is required for the aerospace and aviation sectors, yes.
And those sectors
so quite significant.
We're talking about the civilian sector, not dealing with the needs of our armed forces as far as manufacturing, overhaul, maintenance of our...
That's correct. Those numbers are for the civilian side. I know there's challenges also on the military side, but I'm not. I wouldn't be the best expert to talk about those numbers.
Be a good place for us to be hiring as well, right? Okay. How much time do I have? All of that, hey?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So I don't have to cut again, Mr. Mueller. So it's great. So now let's go on the Zoom, and I invite Mrs. Richie Valdez for 5 minutes or less to ask questions. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to welcome the witnesses for joining us this evening for this important study. First off, I really want to thank you for all the work that you do to empower our veterans and assist them in transitioning into meaningful work. So through you, Mr. Chair, I'm going to direct my first questions to Mr. Burey or Mr. Trepanier. When you were pairing, I'm curious, like when you pair a veteran with a place of employment, what do you base it on? Is it like based on their existing skill sets or interests? Kind of walk us through what that process is like.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair, for the question. I would hesitate to use the term pairing a veteran to a position or an occupation. Helmets to Hard Hats is a referral service for veterans and serving reservists and the other client-based demographics that I spoke of, and we work with the locals of the Canadian building trades unions and their apprenticeship and training coordinators. We look to match an individual with an apprenticeship in their local area. So when an individual is transitioning from the military, we'll ask them 3 questions. It is, where do you want to live? What do you want to do? And when can you start? Like when is your release date? When are you free from your commitment to the Canadian military? And based on their answers to that, we'll work with an apprenticeship and training coordinator to match them and with that position and get them through the process so they can start an apprenticeship.
That's awesome. Based on all your experience over the years, can you share what feedback employers have given about veterans in terms of their preparedness for the job? Have you seen an increase in the rate of hiring veterans over the years?
Yeah, so we have received quite a number of comments, feedback from whether it's contractors, business owners, or the unions themselves. They're very impressed with the quality of individual that the veteran is. They understand that when you hire a veteran, you will get real-world experience along with specific skill sets. You'll get leadership, commitment, the ability to work in teams, a teamwork setting, punctuality, and most of all, and what they're after is maturity also. They actively seek out with us veterans who bring those soft skills to the work site. As I said before, through the apprenticeship system, you can teach specific skills required for the occupation, but it is all those other real-world soft skills that they really seek out.
Thank you. And could you share what the typical success rate, how long do they remain in the role? I'm not sure if you have any statistics or any knowledge of that.
Sorry, just to clarify, how long they remain employed with contractors?
That's right. Correct.
Mr. Chair, we don't track that type of statistic. Once the individual, the veteran, is hired on and they start moving through the apprenticeship system with the union, then we don't track. We don't have longitudinal studies about success rates going through their apprenticeship system. That would be a question for the unions, I would imagine.
Thank you. And a quick question for Mr. Mueller, through you, Mr. Chair. Do you hire veterans who exclusively have that experience with aerospace in that field, or do you just try to find someone that has the overall skills and then train them on the job?
Well, thank you for the question. It would be again on a case-by-case basis, depending on the needs of the particular company. But I would say it would probably be a little bit of both. Obviously, if they have the hard skills that is required from the industry, that's an easier transition. But the leadership skills and those soft skills that veterans do have, make them ideal employees and contributors to the industry in any capacity. So I know as a general rule, veterans have a lot of the skill sets, whether that be hard or soft, that is very attractive to the sector.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Valdez. And now, nous allons avoir deux courts.
We'll now have 2 short periods. And starting with Ms. Michaud, you have 2.5 minutes. Thank you very much, Chair. And I'm going to put a question to you, Mr. Trepanier, or to your colleague. I went onto your website, and it sees that resettled Afghans are also eligible for the construction industry skills program. And you say on your website, we cannot forget our Afghan colleagues who have resettled in Canada. We must help them, not only provide them with employment, but allow them to undertake careers that meet their expectations. Could you speak to us about this program? How many Afghan interpreters you've been in touch with and been working with? How is it going? Is it a program that is appreciated by them? Chair, thank you very much for this question. I appreciate you asking the question. We have about 20 with us who are working with us. And the Local 27 in Toronto, through Local 27, these Afghan interpreters are encouraged to work with us. One mustn't forget that in Afghanistan, the interpreters there were putting their own lives at risk. And the Afghan community also became at risk because they were working with us. They came to Canada and they had to start over again, and I think it's entirely incumbent on Canadians to help them. Well, congratulations. I get the feeling that it's going well. Do you think they feel that when they start over here, they feel safer, and do you feel that they have the support that they need, especially when they're accompanied by programs such as yours? Well, I sure hope so, Chair. Thank you. I have a few seconds left. So, Mr. Mueller, perhaps you could tell us, generally speaking, how you think collaboration with the government is going, and do you think there needs to be more of that in order to be able to recruit more veterans into your industry? How could the national strategy be improved, in your opinion?
Thank you for the question. And more collaboration is always best. We're fully supportive of a strategy to ensure that we can secure employment for veterans. But I think it's broader than that also. We've been talking a lot to government about the overarching need for an industrial strategy on how do we attract an investment, how do we remain competitive, how do we need to plan these things out in a very structured ways. And I think that this in particular is one component of that overarching strategy, and how do we make sure that it's non-political, it survives right across the board for the long term, building capacity and capability.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. And for the last questions, and I invite Ms. Rachel Blaney for 2 minutes and a half. Please go ahead.
Well, thank you, Chair, and I'm going to come back to the amazing Helmets to Hard Hats, and just first of all, just say how much I appreciate the work that you do. I've been really impressed. One of the things I loved is I read the report, like you have your monthly stats, so it's so transparent. It lets us know how many veterans are registering in your program. I think that's incredibly helpful. It lets us know what provinces. Fantastic. So I guess I have a couple of questions. Is the first one is, what kind of support do you provide when they move to the work site? I'm just curious about that because it sounds like one of the important parts is supporting with that civilian transition and all of the different steps. So I'm just wondering, as they go through this process, how do you support them in each of those?
Monsieur le Président, votre question, on les suit.
Well, that is a very good question. We follow them until they become settled into the skilled trade that they are preparing for.
Just follow up them, all right? So even though they've been hired, we're gonna carry on and just asking questions how the guys or the girls doing, and so on and so on. Yeah, we don't give up. We don't give up. We always make sure that they're doing well, and having also some feedback from the company or the union how things goes well.
Okay, perfect. And the second part, and please speak in French, the interpretation is amazing, so whatever works best for you is great. But I guess the other question I have is, you mentioned in this also supports for military spouses and dependents. And I know, having represented a base for a long time, one of the challenges often is the spouses and the dependents are sometimes frustrated because they're moving from place to place and they don't have that ability to develop their career. So I'm just wondering, what kind of supports do you have in place, and how do you feel that supports the veteran?
Okay, je vais en français.
Okay, then I'm going to answer in French. They get the same support that we provide the veterans with, so there's no difference. And I'm very pleased that you spoke about this, because spouses and children have to travel all over Canada with the members. And oftentimes, These children don't really know what to do, where to go, where to put themselves, and so we've started helping them. We help the children, and we help the mother and the father, and the mothers and father remind us that we need to do that. There is no discrimination within family members. It's the same process for all. And if I may, very quickly, we also help our homeless veterans. We help them find employment if they want to be able to go down that path. So a veteran is a veteran 365 days a year, not just one day on November 11th. They're a veteran 365 days a year.
Ms. Blenny, well, that's where we're going to stop for this panel. And on behalf of members of the committee and myself, I'd like to thank you, witnesses, for your participation in that study. And we have with us from the Aerospace Industry Association of Canada, Mr. Mike Mueller, President and Chief Executive Officer. And from helmets to hard hats, je ne sais pas, mais je présume en vous écoutant, messieurs, que vous aussi, vous êtes passés de helmets to hard hat. So, j'aimerais vous dire merci aussi pour vos services, parce que j'ai l'impression que vous avez été effectivement en service. So, we have Mr. Paul Berry, Director, Transition Services. From H2H, Normand Trépanier, Deputy Director. So thank you so much. And members, we're going to take a short break in order to salute our witnesses and welcome the new one. So, je suspends.
Meeting suspended.
We can now proceed to the second panel of witnesses. And a quick reminder to our witnesses that before speaking, please wait until I recognize you by name, unless a member calls you directly or asks you a question. And when speaking, please speak slowly and clearly. And when you are not speaking, your mic should be on mute. So I would like to welcome our witnesses, and I'm pleased to say that we have with us tonight from the Persian Gulf Veterans of Canada, Harold Davis, President, and de Prévaction, Monsieur Alexandre.
And from Prévaction, Alexandre Tremblay, Chief Executive Officer, Safety and Health. Both are online. And I'd just like to let you know that when you have 1 minute left, I will raise this yellow card, and the red card means you have to stop.
The floor to Mr. Davis for 5 minutes or less. Please go ahead for your remarks.
Evening, and thank you very much for inviting me to the hearing on National Strategy for Veterans Employment After Service. I was a weapon systems technician in the Air Force for almost 32 years. My trade was working with munitions, aircraft weapon systems, and bomb disposal for most of my career. After I passed the 20-year mark, I started to wonder what I would do once I retired, but at that time, I didn't think much more of it. Then in 2009, the day came when I was medically released from my 35-year retirement plan and went out the window. If you don't think that is scary, let me tell you. A family, a mortgage, a car payment, and just normal for most veterans. And now I have to figure out what my next job will be. I got lucky in some ways I had a retraining package because I was medically released. But friends that I got out for other reasons were not. I will look at my trade, for I know how my trade translates to civilian life. It doesn't, unless you know someone who wants a weapon systems on their plane or a bomb made. For I was trained in bomb disposal, and none of them themselves translate to civilian life. Like I said, I got lucky. My retraining package worked for me, and I had a 10-year career for Shared Services Canada as a network analyst. The system as it stands right now only works for some times. And from what I've heard from Gulf War veterans, it's more on the not working side. I wanted to hear from some of the comments. I want you to hear some of the comments I've received on the subject because I consulted them. Post-release training would be great for some veterans, but a lot of us, it seemed, we did not meet the requirements for release date versus program eligibility. Another veteran, it's a scam. I applied for many positions for which I was qualified for, never received one call, and at the end of the 5 years, I received a call from VAC telling me it's been 5 years and I will be dropped from the program, but thank you for your service. Why doesn't the CAF not give papers to show that civilian skills that you have when someone gets out? When I was looking for work after leaving the CAF after 27 years, every place I went said that in fact that I didn't hold any papers that I could show them saying I was or had taken courses in X, Y, and Z. I was not able to get a job. This has to change. Yes, I have heard all the reasons why they don't give us papers to say we are skilled or haven't taken a course that is equal to the skills that the civilian world wants. It is time that the CAF gets on and catches up in 2023 and stop living in the past. They wanted to know why they can't keep people in the service. Then you have to start treating all who have civilian skills like real people and not crap. This plan works if you're still in your 40s, but the CAF and BAC must start thinking outside of the box. Life doesn't stop at 65. Wayne Flynn wrote, if you're talking about priority hire or CF veterans medical release, that system only works if you know someone. From my experience and have the PASC looking after vets is wrong. Why? If you read the PSECA and the PSCR, a CF veteran is to be deemed a public servant while applying for a job, aka doing a competition. I found hiring managers hope the vets don't understand the act, so he can BS you. Plus another part is proper accreditation, or what we did in the military. Example, in my trade, we operated 15 different cranes. Because I never had the rights for a 20-ton crane, I never got the job. But if you use the accreditation part of the act, I had 2 years to get the ticket for that crane. And he's available if anybody wanted to talk. I applied for a number of maintenance jobs, some with corrections, natural resources, base Edmonton, and I never inquired about why I was not selected. I always thought they were picking other priority hires. There are a lot of us in the Edmonton area. After paying for the doctor's note, the mountain of paperwork, and poorly designed website, I didn't have the steam left to jump through any more hoops. Maybe they figured I didn't want it bad enough. But for me, it was a matter of pride. Not having to go to them crying with my hat in hand is below me. I'd rather suffer and feed my kids beans and beg them on knees for a job. I said, as you can see, not many happy veterans that have been released that have had a lot of good to say about this program or how it is handled. My opinion is this program, or parts of it, has been running around now for many years, and yet here we are still talking about it. From what I have heard in the past, it appears two shortcomings. One, the CF isn't doing enough for veterans being released in a timely fashion when it comes for retraining veterans prior to release, and paperwork as to what they are qualified for on Civilian Street, and ensure we have the proper paperwork as required to prove, and the government's civil service hiring practices are not being monitored enough to ensure they are following hiring practices for veterans that don't see any checks and balances in place to ensure their application is being looked at properly for a veteran.
Mr.
That's my
Davis.
statement. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Right on. Okay. Thank you very much. And also, congratulations. We can see how proud you are to show your recognitions, and thank you for your service too. Et là, je voudrais inviter Monsieur Tremblay.
And I'd now like to invite Mr. Tremblay to speak for the next 5 minutes. And the entire committee congratulates you for your achievement last week. Not everyone has to know, but we all know what you achieved last week. Go ahead for 5 minutes. Good evening for everyone. My name is Alexandre Tremblay. I'm the Chief Executive Officer, and it includes the WebEasy agency and Prévection, which is an organization that specializes in occupational health and safety. Now, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my path. I've always been involved in some way within the military system. From about 12 years and onwards, I went into the cadets, and then I was a reservist within the Canadian Armed Forces. And I also did my police courses as well, police services courses. In 2008 to 2016, I was in the Canadian Armed Forces. And then I went into the Saguenay Regiment in 2016, where I continued my career up until 2022 in the month of March. Now, the civilian part to this, well, I would say that I'm a person that's always been interested in police services. My father was a police officer. My brother was involved in the military. So it's something that I grew up in, and it was always close to my heart. It was also something that I felt was important in my daily life. And the Army also helped me. In 2001, when I went into the Army, I really discovered the values that the Army taught us. It taught us to become leaders. I think that one's first job is to train people to become good citizens. And that's always something that I've also tried to communicate. I went and did a course in 2006, and at the end of 2006 up until 2008, I was providing training at our instruction center at one of the Canadian Armed Forces. It had a different title at the time. Right now, it's an instruction center for the 2nd Division. I was doing that from 2006 to 2008. It was full-time, and then in 2008 I left the forces to become a police officer with the Quebec Police Force, and I was working in Maniwaki. At the time, I had been on the within the 2nd Reserve, and I often thought about it. You know, I was very proud of being a military man. It really gave me a lot on a personal level. So in 2016, sorry, I'm just going to go back in time a little. In 2013, I began a career in occupational health and safety. So I left the police services and I started working in prevention and health and safety. And I think Mr. Davis alluded to this. You know, there's a problem with recognizing credentials and training from the military. When you transition to the civilian sector, it's very hard to get that recognition, the recognition of the skills that you've acquired when you were in the Army. So there are many programs and courses that I had to start all over again. And I could have given up at times, but I decided to persevere. I kept my goal in sight. And in 2016, I wanted to become an entrepreneur. So when I returned as a reservist to Saguenay, I finished my sergeant's course. And then I started working for the infantry in 2009. I'm sorry if you can hear my children in the background. Now, in 2019, COVID came along. So I was transferred to the GBT in Quebec for the operation that was ongoing within in seniors' homes. So I was part of that deployment in these seniors' residences. The entrepreneurial side now, well, I had a lot of experience that I accumulated over time, and so it helped me in my goals. I think that the Canadian Armed Forces and the military can really help people develop those skills. The things that we learn in the Army really help us then do well in entrepreneurship. And I know other people who have done well when they've left the military. So I started businesses, or a business, in 2020. And today I have 3 businesses. Michel Larouche is also part of our group. And in Prevaction, I have many clients outside Quebec. And we have many employees, about 21 currently. Thank you. I see that I have no time left. You're right. You have no time left. You've understood perfectly. So thank you very much for your comments. I see that there is truly a great military tradition in your family. So thank you for everything that you've done. And now we'll take some time to ask you some questions.
First VP of the committee, Mr. Blake Richards, for 6 minutes, please.
Sure. Thank you. We've got some questions for both of you. Thank you both for your presentation. I'll start with you, Mr. Tremblay. You mentioned that you've started some businesses. I don't think you mentioned it, at least I didn't think I caught anything about any support you would have got or any help or assistance or programs that were available to you through Veterans Affairs in order to sort of run down that road. Is that something that was made available to you? Is that something that was there programs or services that were made available to you to encourage that, to help with becoming an entrepreneur or starting a business as a veteran?
En fait,
Yes. Go ahead. What I would say is this. I was a reservist. And you don't hear as much about the programs when you're in the reserve. in March 2022 is when I officially left, and that's when I started hearing more about the programs. As a reservist, what you need to understand is that you may have a civilian career, however, you're very involved in the military. So I was working 3 to 4 days a week along with my civilian job. So there are many people who are reservists and who do that full time. I'm sorry if you can hear my children in the background. That's my life now. But no, I would say that I hadn't heard much about the programs. So I undertook this all myself.
Thank you. And I think that might identify a gap and a thing that I think maybe as a committee we should explore and look at and possibly make recommendations on, because I think it is important. Whatever the path a veteran looks to move down, if that's in gaining employment, or if that, starting a business is a great way to move on in the next chapter of your life. And I think there should be things that are there and programs that are in place to help encourage that and assist with that in whatever way that Veterans Affairs can. So good. I'm glad that you were able to highlight that. Mr. Davis, I've got some questions for you specifically around some of the programs and things, but I also, while you're here, I wanted to just take the opportunity to let you just speak to an issue that I'm sure you would have liked to have, but you had 5 minutes and you wanted to talk to the subject matter at hand. But as a representative of the Persian Gulf Veterans Association, I know that you guys have long fought for recognition that many other veterans have, and you're seeing your service recognized as wartime service. And I want to just let you speak to that quickly, if you'd like to, and tell us what you're fighting for and why that's so important.
Thank you very much. We are Persian Gulf Veterans of Canada. There's approximately 5,000 of us. We are trying to get our recognition for wartime service during the Persian Gulf War. That was over 32 years ago. And till this day, we still are not recognized for the service during a war, actual war. The liberation of a country is what we helped in doing. And nobody is really listening within the government, and we're trying our best to get the recognition that we deserve for that. Along with that comes different benefits, of course, and some of them for families and of members and stuff. It's just nobody understands what a veteran goes through if you haven't really served outside the country. You got Yugoslavia, you got Afghanistan, you got the Persian Gulf, and many, many, many other very dangerous missions that went on out there. And the recognition is not forthcoming in the proper way. Persian Gulf veterans are recognized as special duty area veterans, but yet we served in a war. Korean War veterans were recognized as special duty area veterans at that time, and it took them 30 years to get recognized for their war service. Today, we're hitting 32 years as of Wednesday of next week, and we still haven't been recognized for a proper service. The only outfits in Canada that are actually recognizing us for our service is the Kuwaiti Embassy. They recognize us every year. They give us these medals that are on this side for our service there that we're not allowed to wear on our left side. And if you understand military service, you'll understand when you get a medal from a different country that turns around and recognizes you for your service and you can't wear it with your other medals, then you don't know what that does to a lot of veterans mentally. You wouldn't believe some of the stories I've heard from some of the different veterans of where they served over in the Persian Gulf and how it has affected them mentally because of not being recognized for what they actually did. They have medical problems now, just like everybody else, but a lot of them stem from their service in the Persian Gulf. And we're not recognized for that, even for that part of our medical for Gulf War illness. Other countries are recognized. Canada doesn't recognize Gulf War illness. So we got veterans out there that are paying their own money to go and get the help down in the States.
Well, I'm really saddened to hear that, and I know how difficult it must be to have to fight for something that should be a recognition that it should be there, and what goes with that. So, thank you for fighting on behalf of your fellow veterans to see that happen, and please keep up the fight.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Richards. And now let's go on the web with Mr. Wilson Miao for 6 minutes or less. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our witness for being here today. Definitely, we all recognize the work you have done for our country, and thank you, both of you, for serving to allow us to enjoy the Canada we have today. First, through the chair, I would like to address my first question to Mr. Davids. Through your experience serving and working with the veteran communities, what kind of support do you feel the veteran needs the most after their release that would better help facilitate the transition to their civilian employment?
Thank you for your support, sir. From what I've heard from my veterans, and I'll call them my veterans because that's who I talk with a lot, they are not really getting the outfits to listen. I'm talking VAC, I'm talking the military. You got the two different releases. You got your medical release, you have your normal release. When the medical release happens, that should be automatically kicked over to VAC and let VAC start with all the medical requirements that are the doctor's notes and stuff like that and feelings. When they get out from the regular service, now I know earlier you had a bunch of outfits that are helping veterans, and thank them very much for me. But the veterans that I've talked to, they were never told about them. When I got out in 2009 medically, I went through all the seminars and everything else. Nobody told me about hard hats to helmets, and I'm not even sure if they're around back then, but there are outfits out there that we didn't hear about. I never heard about any of them when I got out. Fortunately, again, I was lucky. I was lucky, you can call it lucky or not, but I was in medical release. So my retraining package, I had to do it all myself. I had to contact them and do all the footwork myself. Nobody was there holding my hand. I had to learn it all, how to do it myself. And I lucked out because I'm like a dog with a bone. I'll go after it, and I'm going to keep until I get my answers that I want. So veterans out there, some of them are getting the help they need. Others are just walking out the door, and then I hear about them where I'm going to call VAC and say, I got a veteran here that's almost homeless, and he needs help. And when they call, they're not getting a lot of what they should be getting. They're not getting the people that will actually help them. So,
well, thank you very much for sharing that with us. And what recommendation or what do you feel that we absolutely should include as part of the national strategy for veteran employment in this case? Because hearing from your comment, definitely we need to provide more resource and support prior to their release. Maybe if you can share with us your recommendation.
My recommendation is that there got to be checks and balances when you turn around and you tell a veteran, oh, you can do a priority hiring or and stuff like that within the government. I went through all of that. I went through the priority hiring. I lucked out. Again, like I said, I'm a dog with a bone. But I know guys in my opening statements that it didn't work for them. Nobody is looking at the civilian side is not looking at, yes, this is a veteran and he's a priority hiring. And the comments that I hear after I got in the civil service side, the shared services and stuff, was, oh, you're a priority hire. Yeah. Well, I had a friend that put in for that job too. Well, not my problem. So, I've already done 30 years and served all over my country, and this is supposed to be my country giving back to me a little bit. And they're not doing it the way that they should be doing it because nobody's watching the hiring practices that are going on. And when it came for me to qualify to be a computer network analyst, I had all the courses. I never had that piece of paper that said I was I had a computer science degree. Luckily, the guy that hired me said, I don't care. I want you to work for me because you have the training. But that's 1 in 25 people probably that'll actually go out on the limb. And he actually had to fight for me to do that. And then when it came for the security clearance, I didn't understand that military security clearance and the civilian security clearances, and they're all done by most of the same people in the RCMP, they don't roll over. So now I had to wait another 4 months for them to do a security clearance check that I already carried a secret one within the military. So I can get another secret one. So stuff like that is not helping a veteran when he's trying to get a job to put food on his table for him and his family.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for sharing that. And Mr. Chair, do I have more time? Perfect.
One more minute.
Thank you. And the next question I'd like to, through the chair, direct this to Mr. Tremblay. Knowing you are quite entrepreneurial with your skill set, with your experience, have you seen businesses being interested in hiring more veterans? And do you feel these businesses have any concern hiring a veteran?
Your mic, Mr. Tremblay. Monsieur Tremblay, allez-y.
Go ahead. My apologies. Thank you for the question, Mr. Mio. I was hoping that question would be asked, actually. The answer is yes, definitely. In our business, we actually have a person who is transitioning from the Canadian Armed Forces to a civilian. His name is Mr. Larouche. That's one of the names of our businesses. And what we're trying to do is support organizations and veterans and talk to organizations about things like PTSD, for example. So if there are military members who have skills, let's say in occupational health and safety, well, given that we know what their training is, we know what their skills are, and so we know that they would be very useful within the workforce. Thank you, Mr. Tremblay. Perhaps you'll have an opportunity to expand on that in answer to another question, but I'll have to stop you there, and we're now going to move on to Ms. Christina Michaud for the next 6 minutes. Go ahead, Ms. Michaud. Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to our witnesses, and thank you for your service and for coming here tonight. And congratulations, Mr. Tremblay, for this new arrival. And don't worry, we actually don't hear your children when you're speaking to us. Now, you had a good full 10 years in the military, and then you worked on the civilian side for many years. Congratulations. So you have acquired the training that you required for all these steps. And it doesn't seem to be that the programs are the same when you're talking about reservists. And you are also saying that the recognition of credentials was something that required work on your part. So what kind of support do you think could be provided for others in those kinds of situations? Well, the programs are different for reservists and for the full-time members of the Canadian Armed Forces. And it's true that I did have about 13 years of experience within. What would I propose? Well, this has already been talked about, and we've talked about this in various seminars as well, in the upper ranks, actually. I don't quite know where that logjam is. You know, you acquire skills within the military, and then you need to move to the civilian side. And Mr. Davis spoke about something, for example, like security clearance. Well, you get your security clearance when you're in the military. Why is that not acknowledged or recognized on the civilian side? So it almost seems like there are these parallel systems that exist, even in terms of standards and training within the Army. You know, oftentimes we go above and beyond within the Army in terms of our skills, and they're much more advanced than the training on the civilian side. You know, you're used to driving this huge tank, for example, or it's almost as if all that training, all those skills I acquired are not acknowledged. Let's say I'm a warrant officer, for example, in the Army. I have many administrative skills when I move to the civilian side. I may be used to managing 30 people, but when you do that transition to the civilian sector, well, the only thing they see you as is a member of the military, but they're not acknowledging all those administrative skills you have. So, I've referred people from the military who had so many skills in human resource management. But then the businesses look at the CV and they see that they say to themselves, well, this is a military member. So just because they don't have the paper, they're not considered. So people have trouble interpreting what those skills are going to be when someone is transitioning from military life to civilian life. Why is the training that is provided within the military not acknowledged on the civilian side? I'll give you another example. So you have this chief corporal, for example, who will have spent several hours in some of the worst conditions possible and who will have done so many hours of teaching in classrooms. And so if you move on to over to the civilian side, these are things that can be transposed when they're doing training or teaching of any sort. But when it comes time to be acknowledged and recognized, well, you don't have that paper, you don't have that diploma. You simply have, all it will say on your own CV is that you were a military instructor, for example, but you don't get that recognition of your credentials and skills on the civilian side. So I think that's a very concrete example. I think it would help the transition if these skills were acknowledged. If I'm doing 20 years in the military, I am going to have all kinds of training under my belt. And as Mr. Davis said, his CV should be pages and pages long. But when he moves to the civilian side, they say to themselves, well, he's just been in the military. And so all those skills, all that baggage, all that experience, with all those details, is not acknowledged. I don't know if that answers your question. Yes, it does. Thank you very much. And it's very interesting. I think that you're making a very good point, and I see members around the table nodding their heads as well. So that is one of the recommendations that this committee could make to the government, that in fact these skills be recognized, or at least so that we're able to make that process easier for veterans. There's a lot of talk about employment support, but there should also be support for entrepreneurship, shouldn't there? You spoke about this and your colleague spoke about this. I think that's also another interesting point. I think more could be done to help people in this transition to entrepreneurship. You were asked, if you were hiring military members. Well, that military member already has these skills, so many things they already know how to do. Perhaps you would have some concrete proposals to make when it comes to that transition to entrepreneurship? Well, I'll do it very quickly. What I would propose is this. Personally, I'm always someone who will be open to hiring veterans. When it comes to occupational health and safety, this is an easier area for former military members to enter because they have a very critical perspective. And, in terms of entrepreneurship, I think there's a lot of work to be done. It's not something that's easy for everyone. But there is a way of helping people develop their skills and supporting them. You have my name and phone number. I'm always happy to participate when other people need advice about this. Veterans and former military members are overqualified in many ways. They're highly qualified, they're highly skilled, they have good leadership skills, and these are very good people. Thank you, Mr. Tremblay. Thank you very much. I know you're very disciplined because of your military training. So now we'll move on to Ms. Rachel Blaney for the next 6 minutes. You have the floor.
And I want to thank the members here that have testified, and thank you both for your tremendous service. And of course, to Mr. Davis, how much I appreciate the advocacy that you're doing for the Persian Gulf War vets and just bringing awareness and recognition of that. We must always acknowledge that service, and when our country fails to and when citizens fail to, I think it's so important that you stand up and do that work and that we all do our best to support that voice being heard. When I'm coming back to this study, I think one of the things that impacted me that both of you talked about was this idea of translating what it means when you serve to civilian skills, and the fact that that isn't done at all, and that often cases members will have to retake training that they're already very skilled in to prove that they know what they know. And I thought that was very important that you talked about the security clearance that's you receive, and then of course you move into civilian life, and that's not translated into what that means. And again, it just feels like a way of not celebrating the tremendous training, the tremendous efforts, and the people who serve our country. And I think that's very shameful. So I'm just wondering if you could speak a little bit about what you think would help with that, during the transition process, however that transition process, leaving the military, moving into civilian life, should there be a process included in that time where you really have the military line that out, sort of almost like a verification, so that you can bring that on to future employers? And do you think that would support veterans in moving forward into civilian life? Mr. Davies, if I could come to you first, and then Mr. Tremblay.
Yes, I think that to have something prior to getting out for the members to be able to take their UER, walk into an office, over at the training building as an example, and say, I'd like all of this transcribed and what I can do when I get out of the service on the civilian side. When I got out, I've got a 1-inch binder. Every course I took in the military is in that binder. When I got my job with Shared Services Canada, the guy who was doing my thing, he said, do you know how many courses you had on computer training? Because I listed it all on my resume. I said, no. I said, I don't remember. I've been in and out of computers for years on aircraft and systems and stuff like that. He said, you've had 37 courses just on computer training alone. And those certificates were in my book. Yeah, like Mr. Tremblay said, they're not recognized on the outside because they're military. I took a 3-month electronics course at the Saskatchewan Technical Institute back in the mid-'80s. 3 months, civilian instructor, a whole classroom of military people. They taught the exact same thing when their regular school year was in to the military. And we walked out of there and we never got one piece of paper from that institute telling us that we just took all the basic electronics that they teach in 1 year. We just took it in 3 months. So, and it's not recognized anywhere. It's just I get a diploma from the military. It's got to be translated somewhere along the lines. The same thing with security clearances. I have a military security clearance, secret, had it for 30 odd years. I go over to Shared Services. I work for the same government. Remember this. I work for the same government. I'm going to be working for the same government. But yet my security clearance from D&D did not translate over to the Shared Services civilian side of the house. And all you had to do is walk that paper across the road. But it didn't do it. So that's another time lag that could be incorporated when the member is getting ready to release. Within 6 months, he could walk into training with all of his UERs, start the process right away, and have it all done before he walks out that door. Because once he walks out that door, all of the support that he has is not there anymore. It's gone.
Mr. Tremblay, I'd love to hear from you. That was an excellent answer, Mr. Davies.
Monsieur Davies,
I think Mr. Davies put it well. There has to be a recognition of these skills. Now, I'm going to put my entrepreneur hat on here. And I'm going to talk about investing. So let's talk about finance. That's important. But when it comes to recognition of credentials, well, Canada, in the case of Mr. Davies, let's say, has invested millions of dollars into training. I was trained as a warrant officer, and that required several $1 million worth of training. So that was invested in me, that Canada invested in me, in Alexandre Tremblay. Now, when it comes time to harvest the results of that training, well, I think it's unfortunate what happens, because it's almost as if Canada's shooting itself in the foot. They go and invest so much money in one individual who could be an agent of change even, or who could make positive changes, economic changes in the country. But all of a sudden, that money's just being thrown out the window in a way, because those credentials, that training that has been acquired, can't be transposed to the civilian side. So you're losing a lot of money when you do that. And I think it's really interesting that you're looking at this in committee. Let's say this training is acknowledged, and these former military members can become an agent of change within their own country. Well, they're with the extra training they're going to have and the training that they've acquired. You have someone who's going to create jobs, create employment. They have their training, and they're going to create growth. But if you send them back to the school bench to start all over again, then you're losing 1, 2, how many years of your investment. And I'm just speaking from the financial side of things. Now let's look at the human side of things. Mr. Tremblay, I'm sorry, we'll have to get back to the human side. Perhaps you'll be able to get back to that in another question. So now we'll have to move on. And there will be one last round of questions. At this point, there will be 3 minutes each so that we can wrap up on time.
Mr. Terry Dodell, so you have 3 minutes to ask questions. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to take an opportunity to thank our guests for being here as well and your service. Listening to the testimony, especially from Mr. Davis, about the frustrations that you had and you're still here, that's the number one thing I'm getting constantly, whether it's emails or people I'm running into my writing that are veterans, is a frustration with Veterans Affairs Canada and how complicated it is to see what channel you actually fit into as somebody coming out of the service. So how could we make that simpler?
I don't know how you can make it really simpler. It is very simple. Like I said earlier, have over in the training building, turn around and have an office for release. Let the member go in there. Have his qualifications transcribed before he walks out the door, because once he walks out the door, he's done. He has no backing of the military anymore. You get your $2 pin and you walk out the door. You're done. VAC doesn't look at you unless you have a medical claim done before they'll even start to look at you. So unless you're on a medical release like I was, then there's no support. You have to rely on all the other agencies that are out there, hard hats to helmets, and all the other ones.
It's hard to know all of those. That's the problem. Like, how do we get them? How do we get 6,000 homeless ones to get through the program, to know all of these options and corporations out there? But just another quick question: do you think, as an organization, VAC is an example, when we hear that they got 4.95% of the employees are actually veterans from an organization, do you think they're walking the walk?
Some cases, yes. Some cases, no. I know I've helped veterans with VAC. They get a civilian case manager, and it's not carried out a lot for what they actually need. Then they end up with a military background case manager, and the guy understands what the person is going through, what that veteran is actually going through, and things change 120%. And I've watched it in different veterans that have contacted me and say, I need help with VAC. And so, but VAC, again, like I said, when you get out of the military, unless you got a claim, and most members don't even know how to put a claim into VAC while they're still serving. They don't think they're allowed. So, you know, they just don't know where to go once they get out. Sometimes they just, honestly, I hate to say it, they fall through the cracks. And you know how hard it is to tell a veteran to go and ask for welfare. I've had to do it, and it hurts.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. And now let's go to another intervention. Mr. Charles Rogers, for 3 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to Mr. Davis and Mr. Tremblay for being here with us and giving us the benefit of your experiences. I earlier listened to the gentleman from the Helmets to Hard Hats, and I was very encouraged because of the positive presentation they made and the things they're doing for veterans. And I was very encouraged that we're getting somewhere. And they're taking advantage of the funding program for education and the family well-being fund and so on, and doing some great work. But I was disappointed to hear, Mr. Davis, your experiences, and I'm not sure, what else can be done in terms of connecting you with that group or others and trying to work in collaboration with trying to provide support for veterans. So I'd like to know, is there one thing in particular, because we got a very short time period here, is there one thing in particular you'd like for us as a committee to recommend to Veterans Affairs that could assist your group and veterans that you dialogue with? Mr. Davis?
Yes, that's a very hard question to answer because every veteran's got a different story, and that story dictates to which way they're going to go. Again, you mentioned Veterans Affairs. Veterans Affairs, again, doesn't work with veterans that are not clients of Veterans Affairs. So it's hard for a veteran that got out on a normal release, his contract is up and he's walking out the door, for to gain any help from them. He has to go to the other, I'll call them offshoots because there are so many different guys out there or organizations that are really trying to help veterans. But he doesn't know them all because nobody's actually told him on the way out the door from the military. They just, here's your, like I said, here's your pin, here's your flag now. Well, we're giving you a flag. And if you're a normal release, you're finished. You're out the door. And once you leave and go through that gate, you're on your own unless you have a claim with Veterans Affairs.
Yeah, so time is just about, it's very short here. Sorry to interrupt. So if there's something that you have that you think we should be doing as a committee and recommending to support veterans, I'd really appreciate it if you send along some ideas in writing to our clerk. We'd really appreciate that because I know you have a lot to offer. Mr. Tremblay, in terms of your experiences, where do you think most veterans gravitate towards jobs? Is it construction? Is it security? Is it health and safety? What are your experiences?
Monsieur Tremblay, 15 secondes, s'il vous plaît, le temps.
You have 15 seconds, Mr. Tremblay. I'm afraid that's about the time it'll take to turn on your mic, but try and answer. I didn't really hear the question very well, but I think you were asking where it is that military members tend to work generally. I don't think or where they could be working. Everyone has their own path. I don't know that I can name one area specifically. When someone has been a military member and they've given so much their country, I think you can also think in the same way. What would I like to do? You can continue to think about what you'd like to do for your country. That might direct where you want to work. In my case, it was about health and safety. I like the human side to it. So you have people who come out with skills. Thank you very much, Mr. Tremblay. I'm sorry, I did stretch out that 15 seconds. We're now going to move on to Ms. Michaud. Move on to Ms. Michaud for the next 3 minutes. Ms. Michaud. Thank you very much, Chair. Well, Mr. Tremblay, how about you finish what you were saying, because it was very interesting. Well, generally what I wanted to say is this. If you really want to be able to help veterans, first of all, ask them what they're interested in, and then make that path easier for them, because it's oftentimes not clear to a person where they're going to find the resources. It's all very well to have all kinds of programs and to present a whole list of programs. But let's say, concretely speaking, someone wants to become a preventions officer, let's say. Well, then they can talk about the specific skills they've acquired, and they need someone to help them identify the next step. You know, people are often encouraged to go in one direction or another, but the person doesn't necessarily know what to do. So you have to make that work easier. You not just accompany that person, but really make it intangible for them. Show them what the programs are. Show them what the actual programs are. Show them where to click, and tell them if you're having trouble, well, we'll help you move forward. So you have to make these things real to them and concrete so they know exactly what they need to do. Thank you very much. Perhaps I could wrap up on this feeling of satisfaction. You know, there's a difference in how many veterans feel satisfied with their jobs compared to the Canadian population. And there's also a difference in the numbers of people who feel they've reached their full potential. Many people want to go into business, or they want to work independently. Now, you were a police officer before you went into business. But do you think entrepreneurship becomes sort of this default, could become a kind of default thing to do because they haven't been accompanied, because they haven't been supported? So perhaps people will just say, well, I better work for myself because that's really all I can figure out how to do. Have you ever heard that? Or do you hear people who really who see entrepreneurship as their own personal adventure to embark on? What do you hear in your surroundings? Well, many military members, yes, have gone into business. But as you say, it can be a bit of a trap. You know, they can just say, well, I'm going to go into business, I'm going to do my own thing. But it can often be a bit of a trap to just think that because I have this military training, I'm going to be a good entrepreneur just because I'm a good leader. You know, that person has to have some sort of framework, some sort of support system, and they may end up hitting a brick wall if they don't. Because yes, there is a good side to entrepreneurship, but it's also very difficult. It can be difficult mentally and morally. And from a family standpoint, it can be difficult. So it can be a trap to think that it's easy to go out on your own, strike out on your own. So, you know, there may be a military member, say, that has a really good idea, and it might be a better investment in these people to say, we're going to accompany you, we're going to help you along, we're going to find you mentors. There are other people who have succeeded, who have retired, and could be supporting you to become an entrepreneur. I think it could be very helpful, and it could be a great association between people. Thank you very much for what you had to say, Mr. Tremblay.
Blaney, for 3 minutes, please.
Well, thank you. And my question is going to be to Mr. Tremblay. And I feel very concerned that we're making you work so hard when you have so many serious things to look after in your household that I know are taking a lot of energy. But my question to you is actually two in one. So the first question that I'm asking you is about specific challenges that you think reservists face in their transition. And then the second part is we've also heard from research that one of the biggest gaps in supports for veterans is looking at entrepreneurship. So I'm just wondering if you could speak to what would be supportive for a veteran who's considering entrepreneurship to move forward.
Dans un premier temps,
Well, first of all, I think there has to be mentoring so that you can learn how to, say, manage a business budget. You know, managing personal finances and business finances are two completely different things. And you know, you don't learn that, actually. It's not really part of the military life as such. And when it comes to entrepreneurship, that's a very important skill to have. I was fortunate enough, lucky enough, I mean, one does make one's own luck, but I was lucky enough to a certain degree to have an idea that turned out well. I consulted many people, and I built a business system for myself that worked very well. So we've been very successful. On the other hand, there's also that financial side. You know, for someone who wants to strike out on their own, it's all very well to say that, well, you have your pension, your provincial pension, your federal pension, but when you want to set up a business, it can take years before you yourself get a salary out of that business. So you have to know how to manage a budget. And so for military members who want to become entrepreneurs, they need some kind of coaching so that they truly understand what entrepreneurship is. It's not always good news. There are often the more negative aspects to it. For example, there's harsh competition out there. So we need associations, we need people who provide mentorship, as I was saying earlier. Perhaps there may be retired, say, owners of businesses, they've sold their business, and it's quite possible that they'll want to pass on their knowledge. So it would be nice if somehow the two could be linked up. And I think it would be very beneficial for our veterans when it comes to entrepreneurship. Now, you also asked a question about reservists. I can't remember what it was.
It looks like we have no time left, a few seconds. So if you don't mind writing it, I'm just trying to identify what the biggest challenges are for folks who are reservists transitioning into employment. But we have no time. I don't want to upset the chair, but if you do have time to write it down and send it to the clerk, I would really appreciate it.
Vous pouvez me contacter à la limite sur mon site.
You can also reach me on my cell phone if you want.
Thank you. I won't be upset, Ms. Blaney. It's okay. So, well, mais c'est ici qu'on arrête notre deuxième panel.
Well, this is where we wrap up with our second panel. I'd like to thank, on behalf of the committee members, thank you for coming and participating in this study.
Mr. Harold Davis, President of Persian Gulf Veterans of Canada. Et nous avions aussi...
And Prévaction, from Prévaction, Alexandre Tremblay, who is the CEO, Health and Occupational Health and Safety. So once again, a big thank you to you. And I would like to tell the members of the committee that we have our witnesses lined up for next week.
Houses, and I invite you to follow our committee, you know, and... Et sur ce, je veux aussi, avant d'y aller, remercier.
I also would like to thank the entire technical team. I would like to thank everyone who supports our work, the clerks, the analysts, and I also would like to thank our interpreters who pointed out to us earlier on that there was some difficulty with the sound. I thank them. And now I'd like to ask the committee if we can adjourn. Is it the pleasure to adjourn? The meeting is adjourned.
you.